Is is it working? Can people see me? I mean, on my side, it says that I'm live. Is that the case now? So far, it's not showing anybody here. Oh. Hey, I am live. We are live. Real quick, just to get this out of the way. I'm using a weird setup to get my stream going, so the audio will probably be consistently desynced. My bad, all the way around. But, anyways, how's everybody doing today? I hope you're doing well. For a little bit here, something that I've liked to do in the past for all the live streams is sound off kind of where you're from in the world, what time it is, because it's just crazy to me. Because right now it's just 1 in the afternoon for me. So where are you from, and what time is it? And if it's super late, what are you doing awake? Kind of thing. Florida 3:10, Texas, UK, wow, Puerto Rico, holy cow. Everywhere. Oh my goodness. Okay. a lot of places here going on. I'm not gonna lie. So last time that I did a live stream properly on the channel here, it was 8 months ago. One that was actually public. 8 months ago, and it I think I had 22,000 subscribers at the time. So I think the entire time we had like 6 people on the live stream. Really cool. So I'm going to try to figure out how to turn on slow chat so that I can kind of learn or kind of see. Oh man, I don't know how to do that. So I'm just going to have to try to keep up as best as possible with the chat. But thank you for coming in today. I'm going to hang out for probably around an hour, hour and a half. Since I got started a little late, I'll probably end around 2:30, give or take. But I just want to more or less fill the entire time with being able to answer some questions, just hanging out, chatting. Yeah, just having an all in all good time. So I hope all of you are doing super well today. And yeah, let me know. What are some questions that you've been having? Oh, I see my mom there in the chat. Montana, USA. That's where I live, is in Montana. If somebody was going to ask me, that's where I live. All right, so if I stop looking up at you, it's because I'm frantically trying to read the chat, just trying my absolute hardest. Let's see here. So we have got South Dakota, what's your favorite part about the job? So the job that I do is kind of split up into 2 different parts. There's this side of the job, which is the YouTube side of the job, which is more educational, informing, entertaining, that sort of thing. And then there's the other side of the job, which is more consultations, telling people how to read body language, be this law enforcement, or a lot of the cases. Sorry if you hear my dog in the background, we ordered food. A lot of the cases, it's for businesses. A lot of interviewers would like to know how best to read the people that they're interviewing. And then a lot of people who are going in for jobs will actually ask a lot in regards to that as well. Oh my goodness. During that little teeny tiny time, so many things have happened. If I don't get to your question, like if you've asked it and it's gone, try to ask it again, and hopefully I'll be able to get around to doing it. Favorite Thanksgiving side, depending on where you're at, I would say it's probably like a macaroni and cheese. However, I used to go to this kind of like group of families get together Thanksgiving thing, and they made these really good stuffed mushrooms. They were stuffed with like cheese and garlic. Oh, that is probably my favorite thing, favorite side from Thanksgiving. Let's see here. How sure are your accuracy? You're solving people's body language. Okay, so how accurate am I? I'm improving and I'm not perfect. And I try to make that super clear in my videos that nonverbal communication in its best, its absolute best, is going to be about 70 to 80% accurate, because people, if anything, are complex. And while there are similarities to everybody, they're complex. My accuracy really is based off of how good of a baseline I can establish from them. And if I'm able to get either a lot of footage or if I'm able to see a person enough to be able to establish that baseline, much like how a polygraph would work, where they ask questions that are not really that important, just to be able to establish where they're emotionally at, then that is going to make my read much more accurate. The baseline is super, super crucial because if you don't get that, if I don't get that, then it's really just relying on basic generalities, which there are some basic generalities, but baseline is crucial. So if I have a really good baseline to be able to work with, then I would like to say that I'd be around that 70 to 80% accurate. But if I don't, then I would say it'd shoot closer to the 50 to 60% accurate. So that's just kind of how that works. And you can ask just about any body language analyst that, and they're going to pretty much say the same thing. But let's see here. Where did you learn how to do nonverbal readings? So I've learned in school, I've learned on personal side practice, I've learned in professional practice, like I said, the consultations. And right now, I'm also working on getting my master's degree in behavior analysis and validity detection, is what it's called. So that's where I've learned, but you can learn all sorts of different ways. The internet is actually a hugely useful resource for this. You have to obviously kind of make sure that what you're listening to is good content. But if you don't want to trust the internet, which I understand, I suggest you just start reading all the books. If there's a book on it, read it. I've read hundreds of books on this, both in class and out of class, since I really care about this subject. I was like the weird kid in class that was like, "Hey, what about this book? Could we read that?" Kind of like that was me. So if that's you, then good. And if you really have a passion for it, then just immerse yourself into it. But in order to really gain traction and understanding, it does kind of have to be a little bit of an obsession. Not totally, but a little bit. But it's always good. And my reason for doing it originally was pretty selfish, just because I didn't I didn't want to be lied to, and also I thought it would be cool. I'm not gonna lie, I can't really dress it up too much more than that. It was really just those two things. So those are kind of what I would suggest. Let's see here. Who introduced me is another question. I introduced myself actually. I've always been interested in psychology since a very, very, very young age, but I've always been appreciative of how the mind works, the human mind works. If a person comes to a conclusion or feels a certain way, I always wanted to know why. And that why question was one of the big things that drove me to be able to start the YouTube channel. And I learned and studied and grew before starting the YouTube channel. But then once that took off, then that really helped inspire even more study and open up more doors and so on and so forth. Let's see here. I'm so sweet. Thank you. That was a very sweet compliment. I've had a kind of a splashy day today. I'm not gonna lie. It hasn't been a super swell day. So I was kind of I appreciate that. So thank you. Do you have another job or is this your full-time gig? This is my full-time gig. I've had other jobs in the past. I've also, along with, okay, nonverbal analysts and body language reading and those kind of jobs, they're pretty niche, really niche. And depending on your town, there is or isn't opportunity for it. So I've had that as a part-time, either remotely, like consultating, consulting people via like webcam, basic stuff like that. But a lot of the times that's pretty hard to come by. So while I've been living in this town that I've been in, it's been supplemented by other jobs as well. But main one has been that. Let's see here. Oh, we've got somebody from Bozeman. I'm assuming that's Bozeman, Montana, and I used to live in Bozeman, Montana. It's a very pretty little town if you haven't been there before. Let's see here. Oh my chat just totally refreshed. There are so many things to be able to work with here. I'm working on it. Also, I don't want to be this guy. I really don't want to be this guy, but I'm seeing now why people do this. This is, like I said, this is my first live stream with more than 6 people on. So if you really do want to be able to have your comments seen, I know now why they say do the like super chat thingy. And even if it's like, I don't know how low of a number you can do, but that pops it up at the very top and highlights and all this other stuff. So if you want that to be guaranteed to be seen, that is a way. I'm going to try to get to as many, if not all of the questions that I have here, which there are just there's a lot, guys. There's a lot of questions. So, um, I can't even pretend to go back to where I was. I've lost my spot. So let's see here. I'll just start here in the middle with everybody. Oklahoma, Australia, Cape Town. I've never been on time. Welcome on time here. Uh, 2 p.m. Tennessee, England. Wow. Let's see here. Let's meet up and deduct people. Deduct people kind of implies that you're going to remove them, and that kind of sounds like you're going to kill them. I don't want to kill anybody, but maybe, that would be kind of fun to do. Deduce some people here. Let's see here. I found my spot, guys. I found it. Kind of. What has been my favorite video? I'm assuming that I've made. Favorite video that I've made. Oh, ooh, there's some different ones. So editing wise, one of my favorite videos is I did a video on how to loosely deduce like Sherlock Holmes, and the editing wise was one of the most strenuous ones. It's a like 9 hour or 9 minute video, but it took 18 hours to edit. A lot of work went into it, but that was probably my favorite editing video. My favorite video that I've ever done, though, I did a psychological test on reflexes based off of what alcohol does to your reflexes. That was the premise of it. So we did some tests without alcohol in the system to see, and then as alcohol went up, explaining what blood alcohol content does to the human brain, how it works. Me and my wife made it into kind of like a game, fun thing. And it was by far my favorite video. Very fun to do. I enjoy doing videos with my wife whenever she's able to or wants to. And so that's probably been my favorite so far. Let's see here. I have always wanted to know how you can tell fake cry or pain. So deciphering emotions is obviously going to be a tricky business because every single person kind of processes emotion semi uniquely. There are facets that are going to be the same. Somebody's frowning, probably sad, like the basic stuff. But beyond that, it's pretty nuanced. So there are certain tells that I'll look for, and it lies largely in the symmetry of the face or body while they're expressing the emotion that they're expressing. And it's hard to keep up a certain facade for too long. And as time goes on, then things will start to slip just because there's so much that you have to kind of rope in to be able to keep track of. So if somebody's fake crying, eventually something will leak, and be it that their eyes stop reflecting the lower half of their face, or the lower half of their face does something odd. A lot of people will see like a smirk will come out if it's a fake thing, and that could be due to dupers or duping delight. And so with deciphering that, it's really just keeping your eye out for those misaligned points. And once again, remember that even if you do it to the best that you humanly can from our current understanding of the science, it still might be a wrong read. It still might be 70 to 80% is kind of what you're shooting for. So good odds, but it could be wrong. So that's kind of what I do on that front. How's my day going? I already answered that. It's it's a day. It's a day. What breed is the doggo? I have two very sweet dogs. One is, they're both rescues, so they have some problems here and there that are kind of remnants from the rescue life. But one of them is a long-haired dachshund mixed with something. His name is Rory. He's very cute. He's brown, and he's pretty hyperactive with his barking. If he hears a noise that he just doesn't think fits, he'll let everybody know. And it's frustrating at times, but that's part of the rescue dog. He was found on the streets in California, and I feel really bad for him because he was moved from California up to Montana and nobody picked him up, and we went there. He does not like men. It took him a year to just like more or less look at me, let alone be around me. So it's just been some time, but he's a very sweet puppy. Just a very sweet puppy. The other one is named Peach. Princess Peach is her full name, based off of the obvious Princess Peach. She is a tiny little furry thing. She's like yay big. We had to get small dogs because we lived in apartments oftentimes. I'm seeing these super chats coming through, and I'll get to it, I promise. Thank you so much for your donations. I really appreciate it. And Peach is sweet. She is definitely my favorite, and I am her favorite. She more or less doesn't care if my wife exists, which is so selfish of her and so rude. But Rory really is, he just thinks the world of my wife. So it balances out. But those are my two dogs. They're very sweet. I've been dying to ask, what is the main difference in body language for those on the autistic spectrum? Can you tell when someone is masking? This is a really, really good question, and I haven't answered it in comments before, and I won't answer it closely right now. I'll answer it loosely because I plan on making a video, a very important video where I'm going to call in a lot of psychologists as well, because I can do body language side of it, but I only have a loose a, a solid understanding of psychology, but I'm not a psychologist. So I'm going to talk to them, talk about the neuro differences, how they display, and it will cover all of that. And I might even turn it into a series because I know that a lot of people watch the content here to be able to help understand and kind of blend into the rest of society more easily. So that is something that I'm going to get around to. However, loosely speaking, it is a different ball game. However, the important thing and what is always important, and like I said, is developing that baseline, because a person's baseline is still going to be a reliable tell for whether or not a person is computing emotionally on some level. And sometimes people don't display that. And in those cases, there's nothing that I can do or the greatest body language analysts out there could possibly do. It's just nothing that we can see. So it is limited and it is different. And I'm gonna unpack that more in a video. I absolutely promise. Perhaps after all of the lockdown and stuff that's going on right now kind of clears up, then I might be able to start going out and talking to these more peoples and making these kind of videos for you, if that's something you're interested in. I'm going to scroll down a fair bit here and catch these super chats if I could find them. Which the hold on a second here. Here's one. Okay. Have you ever considered doing a YouTube collaboration with creators that are a genre, a similar genre or adjacent? My daughters and I were excited to find your channel. Yes. So I did one collaboration, which a lot of you know, with The Art of Deduction. Him and I started YouTube. We met because of YouTube ages ago. And whenever we started our channels, we were like, you know what? If one of us makes this happen, if one of us is doing okay, we're going to try to bring the other up and kind of tackle it as a team. And I did that collaboration and I did it poorly. The collaboration went well, but what I put up went poorly. And I also realized that because I'm so new into having more subscribers and maybe being a more sizable channel, I want to be able to establish more of a rapport there, just getting people content that they can then trust me to be able to upload and to deliver good quality content before I start pursuing other collaborations and whatnot. So I am going to do a lot more, and I have some really fun ones set up, not the least of which is I hope to be able to be doing a collaboration soon with JCS, or Jim Can't Swim, Criminal Psychology. Super excited for that one. So maybe you could keep your eye out for that. What did you do when you first started to observe people? Like, did you read books on it, or how did you start to learn? Okay, back kind of around to that origin story side of things. I started with just kind of being hurt by people, as everybody is. And this was really young. I started being interested in this really, really young, which is fortunate for me. So this was early high school, actually early middle school, that I started showing an intense interest in it. And so from that point on, I started going to college for it. I read books about it. I attended seminars about it. I went and watched like web series and classrooms about it, all of these different things. More or less, I just kind of grasped at everything that could be kind of related and took it in. And I've been doing that. I've been studying this for over 12 years. And then I've been doing the YouTube channel for roughly half of that. But it was just more or less just scrabbling for anything that said body language. I've read so many terrible body language books that it's just ridiculous, where you open it and you can just tell by the writing, you're like, oh no, this was not a good purchase for me. So I've purchased a lot of body language books, but it is what it is. Let's see here. Scrolling down here from Looney. Thank you so much for that donation. I really do appreciate it. You have CPTSD and BPD. from long-term trauma. The way I behave is extremely unnatural. My entire personality is warped at its core. Do people think I'm a liar? How do I deal with being perceived like that? First, I'm sorry that that has happened to you. I on some levels understand, and I'm in no way trying to say, yeah, I get you, because that doesn't help. So with that, people who are misinformed can, and if people don't understand the necessity of establishing who a person is nonverbally beforehand, they can really misread some things. I've helped some people who have gone through trauma and have just different coping mechanisms, different ways of displaying uh, their emotions due to that trauma, and bringing people back to like a sense of normalcy. And I don't necessarily think that you need to have a normal way of coping with or displaying emotions, but to be able to be better understood by other people, that's just usually the driving point. So you will probably run into some issues, be it in relationships, friendships, that people will think that you're lying. The way around that is either one, to fake it, which I don't really like that idea, but the best thing is just to be open and communicative with them, talk to them and tell them, hey, this is how I present things. And understanding yourself is huge on that. And a lot of people find that in these videos is that they'll watch and then they'll think about how they handle it, and then that helps them better understand how they present themselves to the world and how to present themselves even to themselves. So just taking time to self-reflect. But I am not a psychologist, so I am in no way offering any like professional advice on this. This is just my thoughts on it and from my experience. But yes, people can perceive you somewhat as a liar at times, even if you're not, which is too bad, but that's usually just them kind of going off of a little bit less information than they need. I hope that makes sense. Let's see here. People have some pets. I love pets. Let's see here. Hey, I don't know if you should take a shot every time I mention my wife. My wife's name is Megan. She's really, really fun. She is an artist, which I'm gonna actually promote some of her stuff on the channel sometime. She's helped me design some of my merch things and whatnot, but she does actual actual art as well. And I like promoting her stuff, so it's pretty cool. Let's see here. When you were young, did you get picked up, or did you pick up on so-called friends? I've always been okay at seeing how people are thinking and what they're thinking. I used to do this thing way back in the day, like ages ago, before I started studying any of this, where I would sit and run through psychologically how a person could be feeling, and then I'd tell them based off of what I got from looking at them. So I was reading their body language and thinking about the psychology of it, but I didn't know that's what I was doing. I just was doing it. And so I used to do fake, almost like psychic style readings with them. So yes, to an extent, but also the book work really helped. A lot of book work, a lot of testing, a lot of practicing. That has really helped. Let's see here. A collab with Profiling Evil would be awesome too. I'll keep that in mind, actually, 100%. I'm always looking to be able to work with other people because it's just fun. That's one of the fun things about YouTube, is being able to work with other people. As an autistic adult, an autistic female adult, I would love to know what you see when someone is masking. I've always been curious how the world sees me, especially someone who knows what to look for. A lot of that will come out in the micro side of things, which micros are hard to see, period. Let alone, like, a lot of people want me to pick back up the two truths and a lie. And I kind of started that one perhaps biting off a little bit too much more than I could chew. When people are masking, even really, really good maskers, eventually something will slip, and it's up to the astute observationalist or body language analyst or anybody who's even just passionate about this. You have to really be able to notice and know. So anybody can see if somebody flashes like a snarl, and it's so small. I can't stress to you how small it is. So when somebody does a snarl expression, you can see it, but when it's a micro expression, it's often even just like the tensing of the skin near that area that would normally happen, because by that point, your brain's already kicked in and you're cutting that off. But seeing that little tiny movement, that's where it leaks out. And a lot of people feel like they're completely expressionless. And to most observers, or to all observers, they are. But if there is somebody good enough to see it, there is always something that will leak out. It's almost impossible to hide everything. Some people can. Like I said, there's always exceptions to that rule, but that's how it usually goes. Let's see here. I should collaborate with Dr. Grande. That would be kind of fun. I would love to like actually just sit in his office with him and do a dealy, but I don't know. That might have to be a little ways down the way. Let's see here. I got a couple more chats, so thank you so much from BCL. What would you say are the biggest reasons why someone who might be very transparent still be very misunderstood? A lot of people project. That's one of the biggest difficulties, is that people will project themselves onto what's going on. That's something that I am, even to this day, still really, really working on. And I've been working on it for a while, a long while. But that state of projecting your mental state on what you see will oftentimes lead people to misunderstand. So if you're feeling insecure and you're reading somebody who is being transparent and they're not being insecure, but you're feeling it, you could read your emotions in them. And so being aware of your emotional state and keeping that in mind is important. So that would be, in my opinion, the biggest reason that people misinterpret things is by their own emotional projection. I hope that makes sense. And if that wasn't the answer to your question, exactly what you were asking, I'm sorry. I tried. Let's see here. Whoa, boy. From Andrea Rodriguez, thank you so much for the donation. I appreciate it. How do you mask the look on your face when you get a gift? Oh, when you get a gift that you don't like. It's the worst, isn't it? It's so awkward. That's an excellent question and such a lighthearted one. I really appreciate that, because we've all gotten those gifts where it's just like, oh, cool. This is what I wanted. Definitely that. The best thing that I would suggest doing is, if you want to be able to really pull off that you're appreciative of it. I'm not a very expressive person when opening gifts anyways. I oftentimes just get very uncomfortable getting gifts. That's just how I am. So what I always focused on is making sure that, one, smile. People like people who smile because smiling is contagious. There's a whole evolutionary psychology behind that. But smile and make sure it reaches your eyes. Make sure you consciously make sure the smile reaches your eyes. Don't be freaky about it. Don't be kind of thing. But like, smile and let it reach your eyes, and that will convey genuineness. And they don't even really need to know that you don't like it. They just need to know that you're happy. And if you're happy, feel happy, everything will smooth over greatly. That's what I would suggest. All right, let's see here. Once again, sorry if I'm not hitting your questions. I will try to get to it. Um, would you ever do an analysis on Lie to Me, the show? So I don't know if many of you know the show. It only aired for 3 seasons, which was heartbreaking to me, but I understand after a little bit it's a little limited. But the show Lie to Me was based heavily off of Paul Ekman, which that's who I'm getting my degree through, is the Ekman school that he more or less founded, and it's a fully accredited school. So I'm getting that master's degree through there, and it's based off of him loosely, with a little bit of Hollywood pizzazz added to it. A little bit of corners were cut, some things were embellished that shouldn't have been. But all in all, pretty close to it. And yes, I have done one read of Lie to Me, and I will be doing more reads of it in the future. I hope to be able to pull in just some stuff or some of the shows that are centered around kind of this subject, perhaps things like The Mentalist, Lie to Me. There are a few others. I know Monk is another one that people think of a lot. So I'll be doing some of those kind of readings as well. Let's see here. Ooh, this is an important question that I'm not sure of the answer to, but it is an important question. When will we get season 2 of the Mind Reader podcast? So Mind Reader is a podcast that me and Jordan over the Art of Deduction started up, I don't know, a while ago. And it was something that we were having a lot of fun with, but then he got really busy. Now, technically, Mind Reader would be considered more his podcast, and I am the co-host of it. He is absolutely the head runner of it, but him and I have been so busy on two different schedule planes that it's been hard for us to be able to be like, all right, we got to carve out 5 hours out of this day just to sit down and hammer it out. So, but I think we'll be getting that done here sooner than later. We really do enjoy it. It's a very good podcast, and we hope to be able to get some more guests and things like that on there as well. Can you do a voice analysis of a voice recording without body language? I'm intrigued by these so-called. Oh, okay. So voice analysis. I am not efficient. That is a thing. Yes, people can do that. I am not proficient enough in that to do so as an exclusive video. If I do any voice analysis, it's usually coupled with nonverbal and actual research. Just because I don't know enough of it. I don't know enough to be able to be like, okay, so during these times, it's exactly going to sound like this. So I can just build an entire video around that. So I usually try to have some video with it. It can be done though. Let's see here. Do I believe in astrology? So far, I am I try to keep an open mind. I feel like that's extremely important. And as soon as you say verbatim that something cannot happen, then it means that even if something changes, then you won't. So I'm keeping an open mind. Right now, I haven't seen enough scientific like research done on it to fully buy into astrology. However, I do believe that astrology is based off of some scientific principles with personality types and so on and so forth that I do buy into, but not to the extent that other people do. So I think it's interesting, but a large part of it is based off of Barnum's statements, which I don't buy into. It's just a trick of the mentalist trade. Let's see here. I'm really, like I said, I'm really trying to keep up with everybody because I would love to be able to answer all your questions. But my goodness, guys, y'all got some questions. Does studying this make it easier for you to mask your emotions? Yes, to an extent, because I'm aware of what my body does. That's kind of like the first step that you'll notice if you start down this road of studying body language. You'll start paying attention a lot to what you are doing and what you are communicating. And as you get better at masking that. So yes, to an extent, but it's still, even if you know all about it, your brain can still do its own thing, more or less. And that's why body language reading can be so accurate, is because we can't control a lot of it. And if you're aware of it, you can control a little bit more, but still not all of it. So yes and no. Let's see here. Welcome to anybody who's new here. I'm really glad you're here. And I hope you're having a good day. I am desperately trying to catch up with comments here and questions and whatnot. Here's a good one. What are your thoughts on reading mediums, aka the Hollywood medium? So I'm assuming you mean like the psychic medium. I am working on opening up doors for myself to be able to do some actual study in that. Going and asking questions, doing interviews, running tests, so on and so forth. Because the biggest issue that I found out is that it's hard to get a medium or a psychic into a controlled environment to where it's just fully testable, provable, or hooked up to a machine or anything like that. I know that there are a lot of fake people out there, but for me to be so bold as to say that everything is fake, then that's me assuming that I know all of it, and I don't. So once again, keeping an open mind to it. But right now, my stance on it is I will believe it as soon as they can prove it to be true to me. It's not up to me to prove that it's not true, to prove a negative. So I would love to be able to believe it. It would be very cool. And if somebody does, then yeah, why not? All right. Love from Ohio. I hope Ohio is nice. Let's see here. A lot of people on the mind reader. I have to go now. Oh, I'll see you around, Andy Janae, I believe is how you say that. Let's see. I would love to see his analysis on Holden and Mindhunter. Oh, so Mindhunter. That is a different show that I haven't actually gotten into. I've been told by literally hundreds of people that I need to watch that show, and I know that I need to. I just haven't gotten around to it. And I think as time goes on, as I continue to do more true crime content and related content to that, I'll be getting around to some of those things like that for sure. Absolutely. Let's see here. Scrolling down a fair bit to get to some more updated ones. Lots in chat. The ghost is going to get you. Greetings from Poland. Ooh, Darren Brown did an amazing series about that sort of thing, teaching people cold read who weren't psychic. But yeah, Darren Brown is a large inspiration in my life for that side of things. So Darren is an excellent performer and an amazing mentalist with a lot of trailblazing practices that he does. And he did do an entire series centered around that. And I appreciated that. And I watched that. The only reason that I left it feeling a little less satisfied is because due to the fact that you have to make it appropriate for television, a lot of stuff was left out, and I would like to be able to see it myself. That's just kind of how I learn. I like to be able to test and try things myself so that I know. But yes, Darren Brown is excellent. If any of you are here and you would like to see what a person um who believes solidly in science and doesn't stray from that, but can still do some amazing things, I suggest you watch Darren Brown. He's on Netflix and some other places. His live shows are brilliant. Let's see here from Rapture for Rosie. I really enjoy your content. First, thank you for the donation. I really appreciate it. And I've recently gotten my family into your channel as well. I just wanted to ask, how do you deal with criticism? Um, it, Criticism's important to me because that's part of just being able to grow. Accepting that you're wrong and that something has to change within you is extremely important. I am not one of those types of people that are just like, yeah, no, criticism's no big deal kind of thing. It's still like if somebody tells me that I'm a horrible piece of trash, then that's not really constructive criticism. That's just criticism and it feels bad, obviously, but in the end of the day, it's just their opinion. So with criticism, I really try to see if it's something that's offering a solution. And if it's not offering a solution, then it's just complaining, not worth anybody's time. Criticism without solution is just complaining. So I also try to adapt that for myself as well. If there's something that's wrong and I have a critique of it, I try to have a solution for that critique rather than just being like, I don't like it, which is very frustrating to me because some people are. That's kind of the vibe of the internet, is that people just want to criticize without uh, putting in the thought to have a solution for it. All right, let's see here. Bum, bum, bum. I just really let's see. Just recently found your channel. I love the things doing this. Stop watching your vids. Thank you so much. Well, Madison Badger, thank you for that comment. I really appreciate that. It makes me really happy when I find out that what I'm doing is either helping people, either even if it's just with boredom. If you're bored and a video that I put out helps, that counts as a win in my book. I really do appreciate hearing that it does actually have an effect. I spent 6 years on the channel. I've been on here for 6 years, and the first 5 years of that were really, really slow. Felt kind of like I was just sending out videos into the void, but I love it and I've always appreciated it and it helped me study more. So that's good. And now it's kind of paying off in the long run of things. And I can assure you that people around me, friends and family, are like, oh, good. So this is actually paying off. Because for a while, sure didn't. Sure didn't pay off. Okay, what book would you recommend on body language and micro expressions? I'm a psychology student and I really like these topics. Good question. My first suggestions are going to be any book by Paul Ekman. The top two are going to be, I would actually do Emotions Revealed, I believe is the title of it, by Paul Ekman. He does an excellent job at just the general overall idea of it. Telling Lies is another really good one. If you read both of those books and really read it, perhaps even go and be like, all right, I'm going to read some of the source material. That's what I did. So he goes through and he lists and then he has sources and then you go and read those books and so on and so forth. But those two are going to be a really good start for the micro expression sides of things because that's Paul Ekman's that's his wheelhouse. He really did push hard to be able to understand that. He traveled places. He tested people who were as detached from modern culture as possible, just to see consistencies and inconsistencies, and that would be a good starting place for you. Let's see here. Vanessa Matthews says, first, thank you for the donation. I appreciate it. I don't really have a question. I just think you're awesome and I thoroughly enjoy your videos. Well, thank you, Vanessa. I really appreciate that. And I also appreciate the $5. That will buy a really nice sandwich for me, which I'm hungry. I ordered food and I was like, oh, a stream. So yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Let's see here. I'm gonna start trying to say who says these things so that you know that I'm talking about yours, but I don't know how to say some of these words. Yumi-san Z, I think I've got that right. Said I took a course in nonverbal communication in college, thought it was interesting, but your channel has really sparked more interest in the topic for me. So I can relate to that. In college, I found the amount of material extremely underwhelming, just massively underwhelming. I wanted more, and nobody was providing more. It always just seemed as though it was like this watered down kind of like side thought of a class, maybe one class session of an entire class kind of thing. It was just very, very, very watered down. So I understand that you were just probably a little bit like, oh, this is cool, but cool, because that's how it's treated most of the time. So if you want to be able to get some better understanding of it, it's a little hard and you do kind of have to do a lot of your own self research. Eventually, if you feel like it, you can get a degree through the Emotional Intelligence Academy. Might as well. Won't hurt. Let's see here. Let's see. PK says, "Hey, love your work. As I wish to study psychology one day, is there a chance you could make content about narcissism, let's say with Dr. Ramani here on YouTube? It it's just about that in general. Thanks." Yes. So back before the YouTube channel started taking off a little bit, I was working hard on diversifying what Observe did while kind of staying in this main wheelhouse of observation with criminal profiling, social profiling, not like the negative profiling. I don't support negative profiling. If you do that, shame on you. But like based off of observational things, what they mean, how they mean, blah, blah, blah. Psychology, sociology, behavior analysis, all of these things are things that I wanted to be able to focus on in Observe. And I will be pulling that back in after I have a little bit more certainty that all of this that's happening right now isn't just going to float away. So yes, I will be doing some things on narcissism, how they display non-verbally, psychologically, what are the indicators of it, how to cope with that if you have narcissistic tendencies, how to cope with that if you are in a relationship, friendship, or related to somebody who has narcissistic tendencies as well. So yeah, that will be coming up for sure. Let's see here. Somebody says here, love your intro music, always has me dancing. Thank you. I owe a lot of the I owe the music to I can't pronounce the name. I feel terrible for it, but I put it in the links. But a lot of people ask where I got my intro, like who made it, and that was me. I've worked years in video editing, both on YouTube and professionally as well. So I made that intro. If you're curious, and no, I don't think I'll make another one because it was very tedious and took a very long time. But I appreciate the appreciation of it because I worked really hard on it and a long time on it. Let's see here. Hey, Logan. Boro Boro. Boro says, "Hey Logan, I love the content. How can I improve on reading micro expressions? Most of the time I can't test the accuracy." That's an excellent question. That's a really excellent question, and it's a very interesting one to try to get over. So there are some tests that exist now to be able to help train that. There's an app that I got once that I did not appreciate. It didn't do well. I didn't like it. It didn't communicate what I thought a micro expression would look like too well. So I don't suggest going with anything like that. If you want kind of the best source right now for micro expression training and deception and validity training will be through the Paul Ekman School. You can get training for it on various levels. If you don't want to commit to like the full thousands and thousands and thousands for a degree, you can just get a couple certifications here and there if you're in the mood for those as well. That would be my best suggestion. So I think it's called the Paul Ekman Group, or the Ekman Group is what it's called. That would be your best way to go find material and then also be able to train with it. And it offers all of that you're looking for. In real life, the best way to do it would be just to look out for what's being said, and then later on, once the truth is unveiled, see if what you felt was right. And it's a slow process and it's a tedious process, but that's going to be one of the more real processes of it. Other ones you could do would be like games that you could play with your friends or family members. The Two Truths and a Lie is an excellent one, although limited, because it's easier to lie about flipping things than not, especially in a social setting like that, where nobody's really stressed. Then that makes it harder to detect and harder to interpret. So I would suggest you try those two things. And if you're studying this, welcome to the nightmare that is trying to get proficient at this. So I hope that those help you start. And then as you start into these deals, more doors will open, and you'll be able to find more sources material. Let's see here. Who's my favorite person on the wall behind me? That is a great question. So as you can see, I have it to where this like main line here is kind of, this main line right in the middle are some of the role models that I have or that are applicable to the channel. So biggest inspirations are going to be these two people here. This one is Paul Ekman, and this one is Darren Brown. I like Darren Brown for his showmanship side of things. He's just brilliant. If you haven't looked him up, look him up. He's a British mentalist, and he does very, very well for himself. And then Paul Ekman, because of the actual scientific side of things, he put in a lot of the study, and I appreciated that. It's kind of old, but could you do an analysis of Jenna Marbles on James Charles's video? Ooh, maybe. So I did, just so you know, I did the original analysis of Jenna Marbles because people really, really wanted me to. And I did it so that people could see what a genuine person looks like when they apologize. Breaking that down, explaining how, and a lot of people thought that I had never watched Jenna Marbles before. I've seen Jenna Marbles and had been subscribed for 5-6 years, something like that. I've seen almost all of her videos since earlier on days. So I know who she is. That's part of why I knew what her baseline was so well. But in light of her stepping down from YouTube, I think the one video that I made on her is going to be all that I do. She, I'm assuming, is very happy being disconnected from YouTube, and I would rather not try to drag her back into that. So that is an interesting suggestion, and I really do appreciate that suggestion, but I probably won't do it unless she comes back. If she comes back, then I'll probably do that. And I know that she's a pretty genuine person. She knows her faults and she's acknowledged them. So I won't have any problem reading her body language, but I appreciate her. So that's part of why I don't want to kind of drag her back into that drama. I hope that makes sense. Do you think studying body language could help an actor for a performance? If so, how? Yes, I do. And the biggest reason is because performances by actors are based largely off of nonverbal communication, whether or not they're aware of that or the audience is aware of that. It is, and being able to display that well is important. However, when it comes down to it, there is a line. Acting while more or less just portraying a part could be construed as lying. Lying is different in that everybody's encouraging you to portray that part when you're an actor. Everybody wants you to do well at it. So, with that sort of confidence, that can help send acting off into a brilliant performance. When you're lying or you're under the microscope for lying about something, especially if it's negative, nobody wants you to be able to sell that part really well, which makes it to where there's that kind of dichotomy between that, which a lot of people, the only reason that I'm bringing this up is because a lot of people see that relationship because there is one, but there is a difference. Yes, body language can help an actor, but not all the way. A lot of that will come through the methodology behind that acting and how well they can immerse themselves into the mindset of that character. That's where the big practice is going to come from, and the rest of it kind of follows along with. I hope that makes sense. Let's see here. Just so you know, for everybody who is sending out like good wishes and love and support, I really do appreciate it. Today of all days, I did need that, so thank you so much. I really do appreciate that. And I'm not overlooking them. I see all of them, and that means a lot to me, so thank you. The only reason that I'm not acknowledging them is because there's so many questions, and I'm trying to get to those questions as best as I can, so as to keep people interested and to help answer some questions for them. Let's see here. Oh, we got to keep annoying Logan. Hopefully he'll see the comments. Wait, hold on. I'm that Janae. Janae? Janae. What was your question? Um, gotta keep. I'm looking for it. Hold on. Thank you. Keeping fingers crossed. Hold on. I'm scrolling up and I'm seeing remnants that John Bennett Ramsey's brother, will you do a video on his interview on Dr. Phil? Now, I wasn't going to say anything about this because I tried to keep my stuff under wraps, but I am doing an analysis on the Ramsey case all the way around as best as I can. Now, the issue with Burke Ramsey, the issue with that is that he did that interview on Dr. Phil. And Dr. Phil is renowned, just renowned for claiming everything and not releasing it, all the way from small, tiny YouTubers to the largest ones. If you do something on Dr. Phil, that studio will crack down on it and not release it, sometimes blocking it, like completely, won't even allow it to be shown. So, I might be able to do a video on Burke, but it would have to be one of those like Patreon based ones so that it can be shown kind of thing and they can't get it and all that. Because the way that Patreon ones work is that it's a privated video that only people with a link can see it. So only patrons can see it. So that's how that works. So I might be able to do one on him, but I will touch and talk about him in this coming video on Friday. Friday should be when I release this video. But yes. Let's see here. Will I do politics? I don't like going into politics because of one main reason, not because there's a lack of lies. Politics is almost chock full of them the entire time. It's more so that people hold so dearly to their political preference that they start being very, very negative towards other people who don't hold that political preference. And while I understand why a lot of people are that way, it's just something that I don't want to in any way enable negativity on my channel for that reason. I don't like people just fighting for no reason, and politics really does open that up. I might do some on occasion if there's something that's extremely crucial, then I might, but I just don't know that that's the best decision for me, and I don't want to have a hand in spreading more drama between viewers on YouTube. So I hope that makes sense. Also, I just get exhausted by politics very fast. As a person who pays attention to body language a lot, it's mind-blowingly exhausting. Is it Katarina or is it Katrina? I'm curious. And Petrujov, you know what? Katrina, thank you. I appreciate that. That's huge. That's a huge amount. Thank you so much. And said, hi there. I just love you. Do you know anybody that committed a crime or what else in these parts? I am from the Czech Republic. What else in these parts? I'm a little confused by what you're asking. Let's see here. Do you know anybody that committed a crime or what else in these parts? Are you saying in these parts? Are you saying in the Czech Republic? Not really. Do I know anybody that's committed a crime? Oh, yeah. No, plenty of people that have committed a crime, but I don't know specifically from the Czech Republic off the top of my head. I hope that answers your question. Yeah, I don't know many people from the Czech Republic at all, unfortunately. I want to be able to travel more, especially to like visit um, experts in various fields that are related to this more here in the future. But right now, everything's been slowed down a lot because of the virus, as we all are loving and enjoying. But yeah, so I hope that answered your question. I feel like it probably didn't, but I hope. Let's see here. Requesting a breakdown of Joel Guy. Please, this guy has layers like an onion. Joel Guy. Never heard of him. I might be able to get around to it. So, for those of you who are curious, I get a lot of requests a day for various people, and I try to prioritize by number of people that have asked. And I understand that it's super disappointing to not have a video done on the person that you're interested in. For instance, this Joel Guy, I haven't heard of him before. And if enough people do really want to see that, then I will probably get around to it. Um, Eventually down the way, I would like to be able to open up Observe to have more staff members than just me, and make it to where I can delegate some more reads to other people so that we can get more of these out for people. But right now, it's pretty limited since this is all fairly new to the actual monetary making side of things, and starting a business without a decent financial base is a pretty bad idea. But maybe I might be able to get back to it or a little bit down the road. Let's see here. Going down here. Trying to find a question here. Solomon's Chaos asks, are there any types of people that you enjoy reading? Actually, I'm not gonna lie, I love the true crime content. It's very engaging and very fascinating. It's very dark though a lot of the times, so it's also equally emotionally exhausting to submerge myself into a case like that, but I appreciate that a lot. However, that being said, I would love to be able to see more people be less dishonest. That's just kind of something that I would love to be able to see. But everybody lies on some point. Literally everybody lies at some point, and that's understandable. Lying is actually a part of our culture, even manners themselves. Masking your negative emotions to be able to present a positive emotion to people is in essence lying. I get that. But I'm talking more about people who are trashy people, and um especially on the internet. I would just like to be able to see more genuine people on the internet and less people that are just trashy. Let's see here. Somebody asked, I saw this question and everything moved. Let's see here. Somebody asked what I would do outside of this. If I were doing something else outside of this, what would I be doing? Um, Depends. I would still do consultations, but just due to my location and the lack of knowledge in general about what body language reading is, it doesn't provide enough financially. So I'd have to substitute it with something else. And my favorite thing that I've done to substitute outside of that is that I did media work in various areas where I could use the stuff that I've been taught, that I've learned. So interviewing people, so perhaps investigative journalism. I've considered doing private investigation, but after looking into it, just not really something that I'm interested in. And so that would probably be what I'd be doing, but I'm doing this now and I'm happy with that. All right, I got to get to this one real quick here. Just a second. Here it is by Gabriela Gonzalez. Thank you so much for the $5. I really appreciate it. And do certain mental disorders have any universal body language tells, specifically depression? Yes and no. And the reason that I say yes is because there's certain minute similarities between what people display, but I never want to say that you can diagnose a person just by looking at their body language. as to what their mental state is, because there's a lot of finesse to that. There's a lot of people, or there's a lot of processing that we are not privy to that goes inside a person's head. With like depression and whatnot, the thing that I notice most and keep my eye out for most if looking for depression are times of where they forget to put on the mask. And for those of you who have been through depression, you know what the mask is. And occasionally that will slip through. And if that slips through more often, then that is usually a tell to me. So when the mask of happiness or the mask of just being fine slips and you see a tiny bit of the pain, be it a little bit of sadness in the eyes will show a lot of that. You'll see a lot of that through the heaviness of the eyelids and the tension around the eyes. That will show perhaps around the mouth. Um, Even in the forehead, you can see these negative emotions displaying themselves. Those are the ways that I see that. But at that point, I don't ever assume. I always would rather just ask and talk. Body language is brilliant for being able to open up doors for better relationships. But it can also be dangerous if you're not kind with it, if you're manipulative with it, or if you're overbearing with it or controlling with it. Because if you know how the person is feeling in your relationship at all times, that opens up a door for you to be very controlling with that emotionally. And that's not something that I condone. So I hope that makes sense. And I appreciate that question. That is a very good question. Let's see here. Um, Trying to get in here. This is interesting. Which three famous people, dead or alive, would you invite to a dinner party and why? This was asked by Sam Wood. That's a great question. Very interesting one, and I haven't honestly thought about it too much. Um, this is poorly thought through, just off the top of my head. So I could very well change my mind if I happen to get the ability to ask people. Um, I would like to be able to sit down with Paul Ekman, Dr. Ekman, and just talk to him about specifically how his research overseas went, how hard that actually was, rather than just what he had to display in his books and his speeches. Let's see. I would like to be able to sit down with some of the older philosophers back in the day, like way back in the day, philosophers, Aristotle's, Plato's, those people. I'm not sure who, but that region of not region. What's the word I'm looking for? Realm. I'll use the word realm. That realm of philosophy is very interesting to me. And then let's see. Actually, I would like to sit down and talk to the mentor of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Very interesting guy, medical person, and I would love to be able to pick his brain about stuff because he was very brilliant. But those would be my three people. Let us see here. Kyra Plummer says, I have certain physical tells that my friends are aware of if I'm super anxious or about to have a panic attack, like rubbing my hands together and biting my cheeks. That's true. So things like that. So tells like that are fairly reliable. The wringing of the hands, rubbing of the hands, biting, licking lips, biting fingernails, um, fidgeting in general, and rocking are all common signs of anxiety on some level. So if you see those, a person is likely feeling anxiety. It's very rare for somebody to have that sort of large cluster of things. However, for people that have like ADHD and ADD and have more or less a constant feeling of pent up energy, it releases in ways like that as well. So that's where reading in context and establishing a baseline and understanding who you're reading and who you're talking to in general is very important. Because if somebody say for instance, somebody has ADD and they're wringing their hands, well, they could just be doing that because that's how they release their energy that they need to. But if you know they have ADD, then you can observe the rest of that and understand that and know that that's part of their baseline. Now, if that stopped, that's the red flag. So, say you're a constant fidgeter all the time. I bounce my legs a lot. I'm always tapping, and I usually am fidgeting with something. If I freeze all of that, that's a nonverbal spike, and it's a negative one. So, just a real quick crash course on nonverbal reading. You want to establish a baseline. That's where a person is at when they're normal, more or less normal. And then from that point, once you establish where that is, how that lies, what that looks like, you can look for positive and negative spikes. Positive spike means that when there was no motion before, there is suddenly motion. So, say somebody usually sits very still and then they start bouncing their foot suddenly. That's a positive spike. Say somebody usually bounces their foot and then it suddenly stops. That's a negative spike because that's the lack of emotion or a lack of motion where there was before. So it's those times that is a flag for a nonverbal analyst to cue in on to understand, because at that point, something prompted that. And anytime you stray from your resting state, your nonverbal baseline, your resting state, it means that something pushed it to happen. Because your body will want to, as all nature does, rely in the easiest mode, the easiest method, the resting state of things. So anytime that varies, that means something prompted that variance. I hope that makes sense. Kayla Roth says, I love your vids. Do you do consultations with individuals? And if so, what do you tend to work on with them? Is it how to read others, or is it how they are coming across in conversations with themselves? Yes, I do. On occasion, I keep those pretty under lock, and I have for right now, especially here recently, just because of the traction of the YouTube channel. I've been dedicating a lot of energy over here. But yes, and it actually varies. The ones that I try not to really get into too much because I don't like causing trouble in between people, or when people come to me and say, hey, my insert person they're close with is saying dot dot dot, are they lying? At that point, my usual response to that is like, hey, I understand that you want my help and I appreciate that. I am not going to insert myself into this sort of situation. I do suggest that you seek help with a psychologist or a psychiatrist or a counselor or anything like that to be able to help mend that relationship first. Because if you're already at the point that you're coming to a nonverbal analyst, then that means that there's probably a history that needs to be addressed. So I stay away from those. Other consultations that are much more lighthearted and more fun, in my opinion, are people that want to be able to portray themselves a little bit better, to come across a little bit nicer to people, maybe more confident, maybe less awkward, things like that. Love doing that because it always just opens up a good avenue for a good relationship with that person, a good friendship. Um, and my goal at the end of that is to more or less show them how they can, through their body language, be confident and not worry as much about what other people are thinking. Because when it does boil down to it, people are thinking about each other much less than they're thinking about themselves. So in situations, especially if people are like, they have bad social anxiety or anything along those lines, being able to teach them how to force their body to portray a certain thing, it helps their mind kind of follow in that suit. And then also reassuring them that a lot of people, they're not paying attention. They're not going to be paying attention. And it does help a lot. Those, I really appreciate that because I can see actual progress in people's lives. On the other side of things, a lot of, like I said, a lot of businesses that have to hold interviews or have to work with clients and whatnot, they would like to be able to see how to better understand a person's body language. And something that's important to note is that deception, there are no universal tells of deception. There's only universal tells of psychological processing. And a lot of people want universal tells of deception, and there's just not. You have to be able to read more than just see like, oh, they did this tell and it means deceit. It's not that. It means they did this tell and in this context it could mean deceit. because the tell could mean something else in a different way. You just have to know what that tell means and how it plays out in the context given. I hope that makes sense. Let us see here. Um, oh boy, this is a great question. What do I do to decompress? This work seems incredibly mentally intense. It is, and I don't know. I would like to say that I have some really good ways of decompressing. I try to keep a good work-life balance. I'm not good at a work-life balance. I usually am always on the go with it. Always trying to think of a new idea, always reading something else, talking to somebody else, consulting on a thing, reading another book. Even I'm still studying. Like I said, I'm still studying to this day, and I always will be studying because the human mind and how it portrays is so incredibly complex. But it is mentally exhausting to try to uh, immerse myself into the state of mind of a person that I'm reading because that helps. That empathy, that side helps a lot. And so on my decompression days, I'll try to ignore like emails and YouTube and or the analytics of YouTube and maybe like play a game, hang out with my wife, perhaps go on a walk on occasion, read a book. But I'm not gonna lie, all the books that I'm reading right now are centered around the channel, so that usually ends up just being not as relaxing. Maybe I'll watch a show that's not related to the channel and just overall have an okay time separate from it. But it's really hard for me to do, and it is something that I'm working on as a person. But yeah, how long have I been married? For 3 years, going on 4 years. Yeah, 4 years in July, the end of July. It's a great time. We've had an adventure though, a lot of intenseness. We had to move a bunch. Just she had some health things that we had to work through. Just a lot was packed into that 3 years, but now we're finally reaching the point to where we could just kind of take a chill pill for a second. What is it like when you're are for your wife when you're so good at reading body language? It's it used to be more invasive because of on my side of things. I try intentionally to not engage that part of my brain while talking anymore, just because I want her to be able to have her secrets and I want us to be able to have the ability that if she wants to tell me something, she could tell me rather than me see it and have to pry for it. So it doesn't always go well. I feel at fault for that a lot because I still pick up on stuff and I know that that's invasive and I'm trying to not pick up on stuff as much or to just choose to not engage that part of my brain. So for a little bit, it added some tenseness to it because she just felt like she couldn't have her own individuality, and that was my bad. That's a fault on me. So it's frustrating, and if you study this a lot, you'll understand what I mean by it. It's definitely not one of those things that it's like, oh, it's always on and I'm always seeing people lie. But it is something that I slide into more and more easily as time goes on, and I have to consciously not slide into that. I hope that makes sense. Let's see here. Megan Mickles says, "Do you ever work with people who suffer with disabilities that affect their communication skills? For example, I know a lot of people with autism have trouble recognizing and portraying body language." I did answer this question earlier, Megan, and I'll restate it again. I have worked some, not a bunch, because that's a very specialized area, but it is something that I feel I have some responsibility to help with because I know on personal levels about that arena, and I would like to be able to provide as much help and care and kindness and goodness to people as I can, especially ones who need it. And so while it's limited, it is something that I am working on opening up doors to be less limited with. And that will show up on the channel here more often. And as I continue, I've built a website that I'm just kind of refining now to be able to get put up to be able to help do consultations and do things like that. So it yeah, it will come around, just not as much as I'd like right now. Mordecai Vibes says, props to your wife too. Huge props to her. She's a very patient and very kind person. And I need that and I appreciate that. So, yes, I agree 100%. Let's see here. Hi from Chicago. Well, hi, Rachel. I hope Chicago is less windy today than usual. Let's see here. Somebody, Emily, I see that you're leaving, but I don't know where your comment is, so I hope that you have a good time. Um, oh yeah, 400 likes. Dang, look at that. That's crazy. This is so crazy from last time. I cannot stress to you, all of you, enough. Last time I did this, I had eight. The top number was 11 people in the chat. Very personal, very fun, but very personal. Um, oh, somebody, Gabriella, thank you for pointing this out because I just saw this and I keep missing things, and I appreciate you pointing this out. Christy Patterson asked, "Hi Logan, I'm blind. Would your evaluation of a blind person be different versus a sighted person?" Thanks. Really, think you should answer. Yes, it would be different on some levels because some of the emotional displays, some of the nonverbal displays that we present are actually culturally based. That's where like nods and head shakes will come in and hand gestures. These all are kind of culturally based. There are some universal ones though. And this is I have to thank Paul for or Dr. Ekman. I'll refer to him as Dr. Ekman. Um he that was one of his questions was how do we know that this is a universal thing rather than just a cultural thing? And so he went and he did tests with people who were blind. He did tests with people who were not from the same culture, and he did tests with people who were from like remote tribes separated from the modern world. And he found commonalities between all of them that are inexplicable. Um, why we smile when we're happy, why we frown when we're sad, why these, and basically the large emotional states, why these all seem to be universal all the way around. It's not something that we're taught, we're born with it. A baby will smile when it's happy, kind of thing. You have to learn to not. And there are obviously exceptions to that. There are always just any rule, any rule with humans. If you think there's a rule, there's an exception for that rule somewhere. So that's that being taken into consideration with the amount of data that he found. My read of a person who was blind, who didn't feed off of other people's expressions and so on and so forth, would really have to boil down once again to what their baseline is doing. And during that point, what their baseline is doing is going to be the biggest tell for me whether or not they are computing psychologically. And I would have to really rely on just the general things that are true for everybody rather than a lot of the nuances. So it would be a more difficult thing, an absolutely more like intricate, nuanced read to read somebody who is from a different culture, who is blind, or who doesn't display what would be considered like in the normal, I don't know what I'm trying to say here, who displays differently, then it just adds more and more nuance and takes a little bit more time. But yes, my approach would be different while all in all still kind of similar. I don't know if that makes sense. Let's see here. Have you ever worked with police to read a suspect's body language? If not, is that something you'd be interested in? Yes, and also yes. I have worked some on it, but very little, not as much as I would like. But also in that area, police oftentimes are more interested in the polygraph than in a nonverbal analyst because they just feel like a nonverbal analyst will make more mistakes. And it's not true, but that's just the conception of it. So it's not as many open doors for that as you would think. Um, but where mine usually works, where my work with the police has been, is just uh, consulting on what they need to portray, how they need to portray themselves to the person that they're talking to, be it a state officer who's pulling somebody over and walking up to a car, all the way to somebody who's actually interviewing or interrogating. That's where the most of it has been, but I hope there's going to be more in the future, if that makes sense. Somebody asked here, Um, Working on it. Somebody asked if I read children, and let's see. Yes, to an extent. Um, but I did a video on it. I did a video on reading children, and it's not hard on a lot of levels because a lot of kids will just wear their emotions. If a child's upset, you'll probably be able to tell that they're just upset. And so reading children is not something that I'm asked to do often, nor do I have too much interest in doing often. Um, but it is useful in times especially if there's like a child that comes from a troubled house, being able to understand what that child's body language is portraying to be able to better help them. That would be an area that I would consider a valid reason to read a child's body language. But outside of that, I really just don't want to do that. I don't want to pry into a child's life like that. They're very young, they're very innocent, and I would rather let them have that than not. I don't know if that makes sense. Let's see here. Related on that, Summer says, if you have children in the future, will you be purposefully reading their body language or not? I don't think I'm going to have kiddos. I have a dot. Hold on. I have a fuzzy on my cheek. It's reflecting off of my beard. It's not a fuzzy. Never mind. If I have children, I don't think I'll have kiddos. Sorry for using kiddos. That's something that I grew up with. I realize that not a lot of people like kiddos. If I have children, then no, I won't. I don't think I'll have children, but I'm also going to try to maintain the same separation between that and them as I do with my wife. I just don't want that in there because once again, they have a right to their privacy, and be I wouldn't want to be a father that just invaded their kids' privacy all the time. It's not worth it. Uh, just yeah, I wouldn't do it. Let's see here. Must be very hard to read Italians. They use their hands while they talk a lot. Yes, but that's also part of their body language baseline. Is that I know that I've said this so many times. Uh, Establishing what their baseline is crucial. It's undeniably crucial. So if somebody talks or a culture talks a lot with their body language and they use their hands a lot and very expressive non-verbally, that's part of their baseline. That's something to keep in mind. And as soon as that strays, which frankly, if it's very, very active, the stray would be more of a negative spike most of the time to where that freezes. There you go. There's the sign of psychological processing. That's my sign to cue in to pay more attention, sort of thing. Oh, dear Darla asked that question. I found the question. Can you do a video of the boy who murder his neighbor for TikTok? Good lord, Leanna, I have never heard of that, and I don't know that I really want to stray into that. I mean, I might. If enough people ask me, a lot of the times I will still do it, but I don't know. I don't know. Might, but probably not. Just to be honest. Let's see here. Eva 10 Kate said what with four 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 exclamation points. I don't know what. And then right underneath that, uh, Nayla, I think. Why did you choose this career? By the way, love your channel. I chose this career because back in the day, I've already said this once on the live stream, so if you're here and you've already heard this story, I'm so sorry. Why don't you grab yourself some popcorn or something like that? But for those of you who haven't heard, I chose this career because initially I got hurt by a lot of people when I was young and in high school and all this other stuff, and it was very selfish reasons. I just didn't want to be lied to. And way back in the day, that was my reason for it. Before that, I liked how a person thought. I loved psychology. I've loved psychology since as long as I can remember. But it was really in early high school, actually early middle school, that I started studying this. And as I studied it and found out more about it, it was just something that I was like, you know what, this is good. This is good. I like this. And so as I continued to push that, I tried to find ways to be able to work in that field, how work in that field works, what is true about working in the field and what isn't. And one of the things that I decided I wanted to do was to start a YouTube channel to help other people see it and understand what it is. And right now, the YouTube channel is actually taking over for me. So I've switched from just doing like consultations and whatnot to doing this full time, and I have been loving it. So there's that. Let's see here. Thanks for answering. You're welcome for answering your question. Can you do a video on the mini lad apology video? Ooh, maybe, perhaps. I haven't had anybody really ask me to do that yet, so it's not super popular. Which I know that there's probably some new people here again, so I'll say this again. But I go by popular demand for my videos because that assures that I'm getting the content out that you as a group would like to be able to see. And that sometimes makes it to where I don't get to all of them, which is upsetting to me. I would like to get to all of them, and maybe down the road there will be a time that I can. So if enough people do suggest me do that read, then I will. If not, then maybe down the road, if I diversify on Observe and get more people on staff here, then me or one of the others will be able to do that read. I hope that makes sense. And yeah, we're really close to 500 likes on here. That's insane. I don't. It's so insane. Ooh, just got another super chat. Thank you so much. And I don't know, for all of you that are new here, if you would like to be able to have me guaranteed read it, I am prioritizing those over the others because I appreciate the support and I want to be able to show that support, that appreciation. But then also it highlights it in bright green so that I can see it. So, or bright colors. All right. You already answered my question, but I just wanted to show some. Oh my goodness, I didn't even read this. I love your videos. Your insight has been very helpful for a character I'm writing. Oh, that's fantastic, Bridget. Thank you, thank you. Oh man, that makes me happy. Um, what are you writing a book, like a book? And if you are, I hope it goes well. I wrote a book when I was really younger, and back when I was 13, I wrote a book, a 350-page book. That was a fantasy book that was just garbage. Oh, it was straight nasty garbage. No character development, no understanding about anything. It was just basically my creative brain just being like, oh, we're going to vomit some stuff out onto these pages and make it work. But I was really proud about that book, and I never took it anywhere because of obvious reasons. Like, nobody wants to read that kind of book. But I really wish you the best of luck in that. Writing a book is so challenging, and it's so worth it. It's so worth it. Once you finish it and you have the pile of papers that is your creation, it feels so good. Taylor, I believe you were you the one that was from Bozeman earlier? I'm not sure. Let's see here. Have you ever done in a reading on someone with DID? It would be interesting to see a collab with a channel like disassociate. I can't pronounce it. Is it disassociate DID? How do they do it? Or I'm not sure. And read the differences between the body language of different alters. That would be an extremely fascinating read. I have not worked with people with DID before. However, I can rest assured that for each alter, a baseline would present itself for what that alter, how that alter functions. And so I would have to rely on baselines for each alter. That would be extremely interesting. And I probably will get around to doing something like that because it's a good question. It's an excellent question, and it's not really touched on in this field in general. I can honestly actually say that through all of the years of studying and all the books that I've read, none of them have touched on that. So that's a really good question, and I probably will. Thank you for the donation too, Taylor. It's huge. I appreciate that, and excellent question. Loved that one. Let's see here. The Tentacles says, would you be willing to talk about the kind of education degree you pursued for your career? Yeah, I can. And it's still in process in that I'm trying to get my master's. So right now I went into college and got through 4 years of college before being like, I'm just not getting what I want out of this. I'm not getting the education that I want because I was largely focused on that, right? And you go into college and there's just not a lot for it. So I went to 4 years of college and had to bounce around in different degrees to collect as much as I could from it, and collected all of that, did all my own studying, more or less lived, breathed, and consumed body language content for well over 4 years, but then in that 4 years with the college as well. Now I'm wrapping everything up with the Emotional Intelligence Academy with a master's degree in behavioral analysis and validity detection, lie detection. And so that's where I'm at with it now. I would like to say that college was a huge help for me in this, but I really found it to be just greatly lacking in its potency and its effectiveness in day-to-day life and what it presents itself as, and I just was very underwhelmed with what I got and found myself oftentimes having done more research into the subject itself than the teachers had themselves. So I decided that instead of spending tens of thousands on just getting a degree just to say I had a degree, I would rather spend all my time and all my money and all my energy on going to or seeing, viewing, attending seminars, reading the books, asking experts, talking to people, and just more or less doing my own study. And then just literally only because of how important it is to show that you have a degree for something. That's why I'm getting my master's. And I've talked with the heads over at the academy. And because of the evident and provable work that I've done in the field that has been verified and qualified and is shown to be accurate and true, they are letting me go right into their master's program. I'm currently working on figuring out if there might be some parts that I can skip just because of how much work I've already done. But that's where I'm at with it. So, yeah. Ooh, Leanna Blackman. I see your comment here. Can you do a video on Eugenia Cooney, please? Um, I know why you're doing the all caps. I am not at this point, and I brought this up in a video before, and it's not because I don't want to, because I know for a fact that the video would be hugely popular and do really well. I'm not going to stray into that specific arena because of some of the psychological nuances that are there. There are some people that I know personally that have to really struggle with some of the stuff that Eugenia struggles with, and I just don't want to hurt anybody. I don't want to trigger anybody, and I don't want to cause anybody pain on that front. My point in this channel is to all in all bring good to people, and I don't want to accidentally do that poorly. So I am not doing that right now. And unless there's something that changes in the future with it, I probably won't do it. And I appreciate the suggestion. You're not alone on that suggestion. That's just kind of where I decided to go with it. I hope you understand. Let's see here. Um Wow, thank you for sharing the tentacles again. Thank you for sharing your story. I'm currently in college, more for a technical degree, but it's fascinating and inspiring to hear stories of passionate professionals. Yeah, and I have my opinions of college in general and how faulty the the college degree can be. Just because somebody got an A in a class doesn't mean that they have any idea how to practice it or how to carry it out. So I really don't appreciate modern day's worship of the college degree. I think it's fairly narrow-minded and short-sighted, but I also understand that it's one of the only ways that you can actually verify if a person knows. So I get it. I wrestle with it, and I kind of hate the college degree. But I know a lot of people love college and have gotten the world out of college, and I appreciate that. I'm referring more so to like this area or other areas where it's just not really well taught. I hope that makes sense. Let us see here. Oh, Nayla again asked off topic, but what's my favorite YouTuber? Ooh, that depends on what realm we're going into here. So, if I'm not studying and I'm trying to unplug, I have a few avenues that I'll do that in, and it's centered in largely two or three different arenas. One is I like video game stuff. I also like the visual development of video games, how they're made, and I feel like video games is one of the bigger future storytelling avenues because it's very interactive and it's very engaging to a person's mind. So I watch some gaming channels. Like I, not gonna lie, I have watched and will watch on occasion. Jacksepticeye. I haven't watched Mark much. I've watched Felix a fair bit. PewDiePie. I love Vsauce. Man, Vsauce is amazing. If I could ever get a collaboration with Vsauce, that would be brilliant. I would love that. So if anybody knows Michael, please let me know. I would love to know Michael. And then I also like, there's a channel called Jazza. He's an artist, and I have done a lot of art when I was younger, and so I appreciate his stuff. But yeah, those are some. I'm very varied with my YouTube intake, though. I've had a lot of hobbies throughout my life that are kind of offshoots, and so I kind of watch stuff on all of those. Hope that makes sense. All right, let's get down here. We've got Catalina, Catalina, I think. W. Would you be willing to study someone like me, PTSD, seizures, and anxiety disorders, and a few other issues? Yes. And in the future, I'm really going to open that up. Right now, I'm working everything just through my house. I am going to move to a brick and mortar building here in the future, hopefully sooner than later, to where something that I'm finding as a massive lack in nonverbal communication, the study thereof, is just archives of footage related to certain things. So for you, with the various things that you have to work through and struggle with, I would love to be able to bring you in to the studio, which my vision of it is it's going to have a dedicated room that's centered around capturing uh, high quality 4K, if not higher, slow motion footage of how micro expressions, emotions, expressions, so on and so forth, display on the human face, and the clearest HD that I can while still capturing it in slow motion, just so people, scientists, doctors, law enforcement, so on and so forth, can have access to it and have a reference point. And I just found that to be vastly lacking right now and very frustrating for me. So in the future, yes, I'm absolutely going to do that. As I continue to push more and more research, absolutely going to do that. So that is an excellent question and a great suggestion as well. And also, thank you for the donation. I keep forgetting to say that. I get so distracted. I get so distracted by the pretty colors. Not gonna lie, but thank you, Megan Rose. Megan Rose, thank you for your donation. I really appreciate it. And also, after payday, I'll be able to donate more. Thank you for all your content, Logan. What are your thoughts on narcissists? No worries on the donation of more. I appreciate what you've given already. Although I have to be fully honest, I don't know how much that is. I'm not familiar with that unit of measurement. And then for your question, thoughts on narcissists. They're more prevalent than a lot of us think. Their main goal is looking out for them, and their body language will reflect that, oftentimes in defensiveness, as anybody infringes on that sense of self that they have. Um, yeah, I'll probably do a video on narcissists specifically at some point and what their nonverbal communication portrays as. But since it's largely it's a psychology based topic, I would like to be able to have another specialist in as well. So that would be one of the collaboration interview videos that I plan on doing. But thank you again, Megan. Let us see here. Ooh. The nonverbal cues people give and analyze them on this channel. Okay. Okay, I know we observe the nonverbal cues people give and analyze them on the channel, but I would like to know how to hide them while lying, because sometimes in your life, sometimes your life can depend on it. And yes, this is one of those things that a lot of people always look at lying as absolutely bad. Really not. Lying is really not. Lying saves a lot of people a lot of pain. And so I understand that precisely. My emotional struggle with giving like a crash course on how to lie, my emotional and moral struggle with that is that while I would give it with the intention of helping people that need the help, I'm sure that people would take that knowledge and use it to hurt other people. And I don't want to enable that. So it's a difficult thing to be able to produce. And I don't know how I would morally feel enabling a person to lie to another person for a negative thing. And while I would do it to help a person who might need to hide something like that because of where life has found them, I wouldn't want to accidentally enable somebody else. So the best that I could do for you right now is to go in, and if you watch the videos, all these videos that I'm talking about, a person's baseline and how deception portrays itself, how emotion portrays itself. If you find points to where you're like, I need to be able to hide this part of me, I need to be able to lie about this part of me to be able to either be safe, largely to be safe, then trying to backtrack it, to unpack it more or less, to see what I'm saying, and then unpack the reverse of that to be able to help you portray better. I hope that makes sense. I'm so sorry if you're in a life situation that forces that. And I hope that helps. And I'm sorry that I can't be more. Um, I wish you the best of luck. Really, honestly, I do. Okay. Lulucy, Lulucy, like lullaby. Is it lullaby, but Lulucy or something like that? How can you read, or how can you spot a psychopath or sociopath, and how can you tell the difference? Difficult, non-verbally speaking, to tell the difference because both of them have a like a muted display or a disconnected display of emotions. Sometimes they don't make sense. Um, and it's just overall more difficult because it's relying on the brain having an emotional struggle with something to present itself non-verbally so that a non-verbal analyst can read it. But if they're not having that initial mental struggle, then it makes it more difficult. However, you can still read other things in people that have sociopathy and psychopathy, like guilt. You can read because everybody has guilt regardless, but not guilt in that I did something wrong, more so guilt in that I don't want to get caught for doing the wrong thing that I did. And so there are certain ways that you can still read it, and it still does rely off of a person's baseline, because the hope is when you read it that you're reading the genuine emotion. But if it's not a genuine emotion, it's very muddy, and I don't think I could possibly cover it in this live stream. Also, speaking of this live stream, it's going to go until 3. It was supposed to go until 2, and then it was 2:30, and because I'm having such a good time, I'm pushing it till 3, but then I actually do have to go and actually work some. So, I am sorry, and I will be doing more. And there will be more on Patreon as well. But I just want to let you know that here. Real quick here, Zoya Quayum, uh, thank you so much for your donation. I really appreciate it. And then stumbled upon your channel, and I'm loving the content. Would you have any plans to expand the true crime section, serial killers, etc.? Yes, 100%. As this continues on forward, I'm even considering pulling in some more resources for stuff. So since I focus largely on nonverbal communication, and that was my focus while going through college, and actually honestly just growing up, it was always centered around psychology and nonverbal communication. I would like to be able to pull in more experts in the other fields that would be related to true crime stories, and just to be able to make Observe a really reliable, or entertaining, at very least entertaining, hub for that kind of content. So yes, I will be doing more and more true crime stuff, and hopefully with more people, with just more potent, reliable, fun content for you. Hope that makes sense. Good question though. Let's see here. Lauren, I don't know how to say your last name. Lauren, is it Courtenay? Courtenay. Thank you for your donation. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much for this Q&A. I'm autistic, and I would love to see more videos on that. There will be more coming out. I promise you that. And I just wondered, do you analyze yourself? Love your channel. I am constantly always aware of myself, especially because I have to portray stuff on camera a lot. Like I have to portray a lot on camera. So I'm constantly aware of what I'm doing with my body language while on camera. And on occasion, what I'll end up catching myself do is that I'll think of something else while trying to talk to the camera, and it will be something else, and I'll be like, "Oh, no, that definitely slipped out. That facial expression slipped out, and that isn't related to here, but I hope that people aren't taking it as related to here." Um, but yeah, so yeah, I'm always analyzing myself. And if you study this, if you start like reading, especially reading a lot of the books and seminars and lessons and stuff, you'll also start analyzing yourself a lot. Promise you. Let's see here. Um I feel like a lot of us in the chat are true crime fans. I am also a true crime fan. It's always been interesting to me. Um, but yeah, there will be more of those for those of you who are interested in true crime. Let's see here. Ooh, this person here, I haven't read this comment yet. This ability clinic says, I'm a pain doctor who works closely with the neuropsychologists. Some of some of work with forensics. I would love to collaborate with you on a video on mental health or psychopathy. That would be very, very interesting. I would actually be interested in doing that. It's a little hard for me to be able to do that right now, and I won't for a while because I I tried to do a collab and it actually really affected the channel a fair bit. So I'm gonna hold off on the collabs for a bit, but down the road, perhaps in like 6 months to a year, I'm gonna start opening up the collaboration side of things so that my audience, the people that are here that are viewing the stuff, know that I'm not changing things because that's a big issue with YouTubers is that they change things a lot. And I'm not changing it, and I don't want to ever portray that. But I want to be able to have that rapport before starting into the collaboration side of things. But that's an excellent idea. Um, Thank you for that suggestion. Emily Flood, thank you so much for the $5 for the sandwich. I appreciate it. And actually, it will have to be for my next sandwich because I already have a sandwich waiting for me in the fridge. And I'm sorry to say, but it was like $6.50. It was Subway. It was a Subway sandwich. By the way, my two go-to Subway sandwiches, if you ever want to try my stuff, are very simple, straightforward ones. I like the cold cut combo from Subway. It's usually on Italian herbs and cheese. I don't get it toasted because you don't need to toast a cold cut. It's called a cold cut. Warm cut sounds gross. And it has American cheese on it. I have lettuce, spinach, jalapenos, black olives, banana peppers, mustard, mayonnaise, oil and vinegar, salt and pepper. It's a packed sandwich. It's a busy sandwich. Look at that. That's content you didn't subscribe for, but you got nonetheless. So I hope you enjoyed that. Let's see here. Whoa. Once again, from this ability clinic, I just saw this question and I'm interested because it's just different. Have you tried the muffliato? Is that how you pronounce that? Muffliato, the classic New Orleans sandwich. It's olives, cold cuts, everything that delicious sandwich you just described. I have not. I obviously have to, though. I don't think that I would ever try it on a video, but I should probably try it in real life. Thank you for that suggestion. That's really cool, and I appreciate that. Let's see here. Do you read fictional books, and do the authors ever get body language completely wrong? I read some fiction, not a bunch. Like I'm at the point to where I haven't even read like the Sherlock Holmes series, and everybody thinks that the guy that's a body language analyst and has done content on Sherlock Holmes should have read the whole series. I haven't read the whole series. And the fiction books that I read are so detached. If I'm reading a fiction book, I'm making darn well certain that it's not related to my field because if I'm reading a book that's fiction, it means that I'm trying to detach. So I haven't read anything that's like, oh, the body language analyst, detective guy. I haven't. So I don't know. But I am certain that there are authors out there that have written characters that they just miss it. There's a lot of people that just miss it. There are even people here on YouTube that miss the realistic study of body language and they try to make it into this fantasy. I can promise you that they're lying. I can promise you this. I can promise you that. And in body language, it's very rare that a guaranteed promise is happening. It happens, and there's also really high possibility, but there's always the chance that something's not that way. And that's hard for a lot of people to come to terms with. It's still frustrating for me to come to terms with, but it is what it is. So let's keep going here. Ugh, my nose is so stuffy today. I live in a grove of trees and I'm allergic to all of them. And I get allergies in the spring and in the fall. And right now I'm in the fall. So here I am. Oh, man. And then Rex Dragneel says, "Do you recommend playing chess?" Um, sure, yeah. Yeah, chess is actually a really good mental exercise. It's really good for planning. It's really good for memorizing patterns and analyzing. It's a good mental game, really good one. I don't play it nearly as much as I can. I have a very rudimentary understanding of chess. Might play it more, but yeah. Why not play chess? It's a good one. Ooh, no, this ability. Holy cow! Hold on a second here. Can you recommend some books first? Vamina, thank you so much for your donation. I appreciate that. Can you recommend some books to start studying nonverbal communication? Actually, tell you what, I can, and this is the question that I'll wrap up the stream with because I feel like I miscommunicated. I'm supposed to end this at 3. I was supposed to end it at 2:30, and I was supposed to end it at 2, but it's ending at 3, and that's my time. So 3 minutes. 3 minutes left, one question, and maybe I'll answer 1 or 2 more. But this question, so the books that I suggest reading, I would suggest for facial side of things, anything by Dr. Ekman, Dr. Paul Ekman. He does excellent work on the microexpression and display of emotion on the face. For beyond that, because his really largely focused just on the face, I would suggest work done by Joe Navarro. Joe Navarro is an excellent one. He was an ex-FBI agent, or he was an FBI agent, and he has written several books that I found to be reliable, solid books. That's at very worst, if anybody was to offer a critique, sometimes they just seem a little bit maybe too generalized or too tooting of his own horn. But that's okay. All in all, you will get a lot of good from his books. And then Alan and Barbara Pease also offer a lot of good quality book reads for nonverbal communication. I'm referring largely though to their nonverbal or their definitive book of body language. It's an excellent, once again, base start of studying body language. So if you find a few books from Paul Ekman and you find the What Everybody Is Saying is a good one from Joe Navarro to start with, and the definitive book of body language, those will be a good start for you. And then from there, just bounce. Even if you like buy it on Amazon, go to the relateds after that. Go to the related books and just read. Just read. Listen to audiobooks. It also works. I don't find that as handy with nonverbal communication books because you kind of want to see it. But if you're like listening to a psychology one or something like that, that can be very, very helpful. So just dive into the books. Just immerse yourself in it. All right. I swear we have 1 minute left. So this will be the last question by Green Pepper. First, thank you for your donation. And do you know what resting bitch face is? Yes, I do. Could you do a video on how to work to hide it? It affects many women in the business environment. I know exactly what it is. It's and it's not just a women thing. There are plenty of guys that I have met, and even myself, I have been told that I have it as well. Uh, yeah, and I feel bad for the people that have it because a lot of the times that's just they're not upset. They're just sitting there. And I wouldn't be upset. I'm just sitting there and people are like, "Are you angry?" I'm like, "No." Do I look like I'm angry? So with that, it does take a conscious effort for a while, and I've had to work on mine. And it won't ever be totally fixed, and it really comes down to being able to rely on knowing that person and knowing what their face looks like. Because some people at relaxed states, one of the places that it really shows most, and if you want to focus on it most, is the eyebrows. A lot of people will cue in on a person's eyebrows because that's where they feel an expression is coming from. And eyebrows are very expressive in general. So if your eyebrows look consistently angry, that's your area that perhaps trying to concentrate on adding more arch to them, like maybe raise them a little bit more, maybe consciously try to turn them upwards a little bit in the interior. It's very awkward, and all in all, it's probably going to be something that you have to work on for a little bit. But that would be my first focus point for you, is to try to just focus on making sure your eyebrows are being sweet to people. Because if you're anything like me, I had to work on getting mine to sit more here instead of more like this. I used to almost always be concentrated, and I usually keep that. That's my concentrated face, and I'll even do that in videos as well. But that would be my suggestion to you, and best of luck with that, because oh my, that's a fun one to have to just wrestle with all the way around. Let's see here. And oh, and also just real quick here on that, you don't have to try to impress anybody. Um, if you look grumpy, all in all, it's pretty okay. If the people around you are caring about you and who you are and actually who you are as a person, then they should not be upset that you look upset. If anything, they should just be curious. Ask why. Hey, are you doing okay? And if you're like, yeah, I'm doing fine, and you're actually okay, then cool. Cool. So don't stress too much about what other people think about you, because once again, people are thinking about you a lot less than it probably feels. So I just wanted to encourage you with that front. If you do also wrestle with it, like I had to wrestle with it, and like I know people that have had to wrestle with it, it's not really a thing that you really have to wrestle about. It's just something that, as people are around you, they'll realize. And the biggest thing is to make sure that you're okay. That's the biggest thing. If you're upset and that's what's displaying, then try to figure out how to get you into a healthy state of mind. And if it's just how your face lies, then who cares? All in all, who cares? Just do your thing. um, let's see here. I don't have much, but I wanted to say you're the most genuine YouTuber I've ever seen, and I can't wait to see your channel reach every success. Thank you so much, Courtney, for that message, and thank you for the donation. I really appreciate it. I hope that I haven't offended anybody today. I really try very hard to not offend people and hurt people unless they're hurting and offending other people. If they've hurt and offended other people, then I don't condone that. I don't support that. And that's where I'll really try to crack down on, when I can see if they're being deceitful or they're being manipulative or so on and so forth. So, all in all, um, I guess my final words is just use everything that you see on this channel to be good. There's plenty of people, plenty of channels, plenty of businesses and entities out there that can tell you to be selfish and be terrible and be mean to your people around you. And it's often so easy to do, but just try to use the stuff that you learn here to heal yourself first. Always take care of yourself first, and then make sure you're good to the people around you. Also, don't put up with bullshit though. Like, if people are being terrible people to other people, don't stand for that. Don't be too sweet to people just because you want to be kind. But be good. All in all, just be a good person. I'm trying to be, and I hope that I can join some of y'all in that as well. But thank you so much. Thank you so much. Genuinely, thank you for coming to the stream. I hope to hold more. You are all it's so crazy cool to see this many people be genuinely this good. Um, it this helped me today. So I hope you had fun, and I know I did, and it really did help my day go better. So good luck. Good luck with your lives. Good luck with school, work, whatever it is. I will try to put out content to help you feel a little bit better now and again. And I really appreciate you all. And I wish I could say that genuinely to like all of you. But let's be fucking real here. There's so many people I couldn't get close, but I really wish I could. So thank you. And I see all of these that you're signing off in the chat, and that's incredible to me. It's If you had told me back when I started this whole thing 12 years ago that this is where I'd be, um, I probably would have laughed at you, but thank you again so much for everything. And I will probably be seeing you in future live streams, but at least I will I'll see you in the next video. Cheers, guys.